and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will present important news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Biden on classified docs discovery. There is no there. Biden tours beach town damaged by massive California storms. Coast Guard monitoring Russian spy ship on patrol off Hawaii. US hands Mexico key suspect in 2014 disappearance of 43 college students. Judge finds Trump lawyer for frivolous Clinton lawsuit. Chemicals for possible fentanyl production seized in Arizona. Legendary singer-songwriter David Crosby dies at 81. Former employee killed after shooting one person at an Indiana Walmart, police say. Google parent Alphabet to cut 12,000 jobs, citing economic reality in latest big tech layoffs. First Native American woman in space steps out on a spacewalk. T-Mobile says data on 37 million customers stolen. Thousands march on Peru's capital to demand President resign as unrest spreads from remote Andean regions. Romanian court extends Andrew Tate's detention on alleged human trafficking. Sailor survives 24 days at sea with only ketchup and seasonings to eat. Ukraine climate economy takeaways from glitzy Davos event. Prince Harry's memoir Spare sells 3.2 million copies in first week. More bodies found in Tibet avalanche. Death toll rises to 28. Fire burns makeshift homes in shadow of Seoul's skyscrapers. Korda of US stops two-time Australian Open runner-up Medvedev. And Dani Alves jailed in Spain for alleged sexual assault. Now news in detail. President Joe Biden said Thursday there is no there when he was persistently questioned about the discovery of classified documents and official records at his home and former office. We found a handful of documents were filed in the wrong place, Biden said to reporters who questioned him during a tour of the damage from storms in California. We immediately turned them over to the archives and the Justice Department. Biden said he was fully cooperating and looking forward to getting this resolved quickly. I think you are going to find there is nothing there, he said. There is no there. The White House has disclosed that Biden attorneys found classified documents and official records on 4 occasions in recent months. On November 2 at the offices of the Penn Biden Center in Washington, and then in follow-up searches on December 20 in the garage of the president's home in Wilmington, Delaware, and on January 11 and 12 in the president's home library. President Joe Biden walked along the splintered boardwalk of his picture postcard California beach town Thursday and heard from business owners struggling to repair damage to their shops after deadly storms caused devastation across the region and killed more than 20 people statewide. Biden toured a gutted seafood restaurant and the badly flooded Paradise Beach Grill. Not far from the collapsed Capitol Pier and the brightly painted pink, orange, and teal shops that were all boarded up following the storms. Walls were crumbling, debris scattered everywhere, and floors swept away by raging waters. Paradise Beach Grill owner Chuck Meir told Biden that water had gushed up from the floor and swamped his business on Monterey Bay, not far from Santa Cruz. No kidding, Biden exclaimed. You don't feel it until you walk the streets, Biden said later from nearby Seacliff State Park, speaking about how bad the damage was and blaming climate change for the severity of the weather. If anybody doubts the climate is changing, they must have been asleep for the last couple of years. Flanked by first responders, California Governor Gavin Newsom and Federal Emergency Management Agency Administrator Dean Criswell, the president highlighted the damage from the punishing rains, powerful winds, floods, and landslides. He warned climate change would create more extreme weather. A Russian spy ship has been patrolling off the coast of Hawaii but so far has remained in international waters, the Pentagon said Thursday. While the appearance of a Russian surveillance ship along the U.S. coastline is not unusual, this one has attracted more attention because of heightened tensions between the U.S. and Russia over Moscow's invasion of Ukraine and veiled threats to employ nuclear weapons. The Vishnu-class Karelia surveillance ship has been monitored by the U.S. Coast Guard sailing near Hawaii over the last several weeks. I can't speak to why the Russians are sailing the ship right now. It's kind of precarious timing, said Pentagon spokeswoman Sabrina Singh. She said the Coast Guard is still monitoring the ship, which has been operating in international waters. In a video posted to Twitter by the Coast Guard, the ship appears to be either being towed by another ship or in a resupply mode. U.S. Indo-Pacific Command is monitoring the Russian vessels operating in international waters in the Western Pacific, the Pentagon said in a statement. As Russia operates within the region, it is expected to do so in accordance with international law. U.S. authorities handed over a key suspect in the 2014 disappearance of 43 college students to Mexico after the man was caught trying to cross the border December 20 without proper documents. Mexico's National Immigration Institute identified the man only by his first name, but a federal agent later confirmed Thursday that he is Alejandro Tenescalco. The institute said he failed to qualify for asylum in the United States. Tenescalco was a police supervisor in the city of Iguala, where the students from a rural teachers' college were abducted by municipal police. Investigations suggest corrupt police turned the students over to a drug gang, who killed them and burned their bodies. Alejandro Encinas, the head of the Government Truth Commission, has called Tenescalco one of the main perpetrators of the crime. He faces charges of kidnapping and organized crime. The Mexican government had offered a $500,000 reward for his arrest. In 2022, the Truth Commission declared the disappearances a state crime because authorities at all levels of government were involved in the disappearances and cover-up. The investigation resulted in the arrest of 3 soldiers, including a now retired general who had been the army commander in the area when the abduction occurred. Also, then Federal Attorney General Jesus Murillo Karam has been accused of inventing the government's original account based on torture and manipulation of evidence. A Florida judge sanctioned former President Donald Trump and one of his attorneys Thursday, ordering them to pay nearly $1 million for filing what he said was a bogus lawsuit against Trump's 2016 rival Hillary Clinton and others. In a blistering filing, U.S. District Judge Donald M. Middlebrooks accused Trump of a pattern of abuse of the courts for filing frivolous lawsuits for political purposes, which he said undermines the rule of law and amounts to obstruction of justice. Here we are confronted with a lawsuit that should never have been filed, which was completely frivolous, both factually and legally, and which was brought in bad faith for an improper purpose, he wrote. Citing Trump's recent legal action against the Pulitzer Prize Board, New York Attorney General Letitia James, big tech companies, and CNN, he described Trump as a prolific and sophisticated litigant who uses the courts to seek revenge on political adversaries. He is the mastermind of strategic abuse of the judicial process, he wrote. The ruling required Trump and his attorney, Alina Habba, to pay nearly $938,000 to the defendants in the case. US agents in southern Arizona said Thursday they seized up to 440 pounds of what they suspect is a precursor chemical often used to manufacture the dangerous drug fentanyl, a chilling sign that producers may be moving to manufacture the deadly synthetic opioid on American soil. The powdered chemical was being transported by agents Thursday morning from a residence and warehouse in Tucson, where it had been sent in recent months in a series of suspicious packages from China that did not identify their contents, said Leo Lamas, the deputy special agent in charge for Homeland Security investigations in Tucson. There were no immediate reports of arrest after agents with federal search warrants entered the locations and found no people inside. David Crosby, the legendary singer-songwriter and founding member of the Byrds and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, has died. A source close to the musician confirmed Thursday he was 81. Crosby, a two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee, died after a long illness. His wife said in a statement to Variety he was lovingly surrounded by his wife and soulmate Jen and son Django. She told the outlet, "Although he is no longer here with us, his humanity and kind soul will continue to guide and inspire us. His legacy will continue to live on through his legendary music." Crosby's final release, live at the Capitol Theater, came out last month. In an interview with the site ultimateclassicrock.com, he described the performance captured in the recording as magical. Crosby, who was born in Los Angeles, joined the Byrds in 1964. They scored their first hit with Bob Dylan's Mr. Tambourine Man. Crosby, Stills and Nash, later known as Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young when Neil Young joined, was founded in 1968, the year after Crosby left the Byrds. The band went on to release a series of hits with Marrakesh Express, Just a Song Before I Go, Woodstock and others. The band's album Looking Forward was released in 1999. A former employee was fatally shot Thursday after he opened fire inside an Indiana Walmart, wounding one person, police said. The ex-employee, identified Friday as Ronald Mosley II, probably had some sort of relationship with the victim in terms of being a co-worker. Evansville police officer Taylor Maris told NBC affiliate WFIE Friday morning. Police said the call about the shooting came in at 9:59 p.m. local time. The victim, who has not been identified, was alive when officers arrived. She was taken to one hospital and later flown to another, Mary said. Her condition was unknown Friday morning. Officers killed the shooter, who fired multiple shots at officers. Sergeant Anna Gray said shortly after the incident in Evansville, a city of around 117,000 in southern Indiana, near the border with Kentucky. Investigators are seeking to interview witnesses. Police have not said what kind of gun Mosley used. Walmart said it would be supporting its employees in the wake of the shooting, and it thanked first responders. Google parent Alphabet Incorporation is cutting 12,000 jobs worldwide in the latest round of layoffs to hit the technology sector. CEO Sundar Pichai announced the cuts in a memo to Google employees that was later shared online in a company blog post. This will mean saying goodbye to some incredibly talented people who worked hard to hire and have loved working with. Pichai said, "I am deeply sorry for that. The fact that these changes will impact the lives of Googlers weighs heavily on me, and I take full responsibility for the decisions that led us here." The cuts represent more than 6% of the company's workforce, according to Reuters. It was not immediately clear which teams would be affected, but they are expected to affect workers in the United States and globally, according to Pichai's note. The technology sector has racked up massive job losses of late amid a slowing global economy. Google's announcement comes just 48 hours after Microsoft announced plans to cut 10,000 jobs and coincides with the first round of layoffs previously announced by Amazon that will ultimately affect a total of 18,000 workers. The first Native American women in space ventured out on a spacewalk Friday to prep the International Space Station for more solar panels. NASA astronaut Nicole Mann emerged alongside Japan's Koichi Wakata, lugging an equipment bag. Their job was to install support struts and brackets for new solar panels launching this summer, part of a continuing effort by NASA to expand the space station's power grid. Mann, a Marine colonel and test pilot, rocketed into orbit last fall with SpaceX, becoming the first Native American woman in space. She is a member of the Wailaki of the Round Valley Indian tribes in Northern California. Wakata, Japan's spaceflight leader with 5 missions, also flew up on SpaceX. He helped build the station during the shuttle era. Friday was the first spacewalk for both. The pair will depart the space station in another month or so. The US wireless carrier T-Mobile said Thursday that an unidentified malicious intruder breached its network in late November and stole data on 37 million customers, including addresses, phone numbers, and dates of birth. T-Mobile said in a filing with the US Securities and Exchange Commission that the breach was discovered January 5. It said the data exposed to theft, based on its investigation to date, did not include passwords or PINs, bank account or credit card information, social security numbers, or other government IDs. Our investigation is still ongoing, but the malicious activity appears to be fully contained at this time. T-Mobile said, with no evidence, the intruder was able to breach the company's network. It said the data was first accessed on or around November 25. T-Mobile said it has notified law enforcement and federal agencies, which it did not name. It did not immediately respond to email seeking comment. Now it's time for global updates. Thousands of protesters poured into Peru's capital Thursday, clashing with police amid tear gas and smoke and demanding the ouster of President Dina Boluarte. Many came from remote Andean regions, where 55 people have died amid unrest since Peru's first president from a rural Andean background was removed from office last month. The protests have seen Peru's worst political violence in more than 2 decades and highlighted deep divisions between the country's urban elite, largely concentrated in Lima and poor rural areas. Former President Pedro Castillo has been in detention and expected to be tried for rebellion since was impeached after a failed attempt to dissolve Congress. The day was mostly quiet, punctuated by clashes and tear gas. The government called on everyone who could to work from home. After sundown, clashes escalated, and late Thursday night, a major fire broke out at a building near the historic Plaza San Martin, although no connection to the protest was immediately clear. Anger at Boluarte was the common thread Thursday as protesters chanted calls for her resignation and street sellers hawked T-shirts saying, "Out Dina Boluarte, Dina murderer, Peru repudiates you," and new elections let them all leave. Peru's ombudsman said at least 13 civilians and 4 police officers were injured in the Lima protest Thursday. A total of 22 police officers and 16 civilians were injured Thursday throughout the country, Interior Minister Vicente Romero Fernandez said. Divisive internet personality Andrew Tate, his brother and 2 other suspects will remain in custody until February 27, a Romanian court said on Thursday, extending their detention. Tate and his co-accused were detained by Romanian anti-organized crime prosecutors on December 29 on charges of forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit 6 women. A court ruled on January 10 that the suspects should remain in Romanian police custody for a full 30 days. Tate's lawyer could not immediately be reached for comment. Tate and his fellow suspects have previously denied any wrongdoing. Romanian authorities have said that they have seized goods and money worth 18 million lei as part of the investigation. Tate an ex-contestant on the UK reality show Big Brother, gained notoriety for misogynistic remarks and hate speech. His remarks got him banned from all major social media platforms, although his Twitter account became active again in November after Elon Musk acquired the platform. Tate, who holds US and British nationality, has said that women are partially responsible for being raped and that they belong to men. A sailor was rescued by the Colombia's Navy after what he said was a 24-day ordeal in which he only had a bottle of ketchup and some seasoning to eat. Elvis Francois, a national of Dominica, said in a video released by the Navy that he spent 24 days with no sight of land before his rescue in the Caribbean Sea. I have no food, it's just a bottle of ketchup that was on the boat, garlic powder and Maggi, he said, referring to a seasoning. So I mixed it up with some water. Francois was rescued about 120 nautical miles northwest of the department of La Guajira, which is on the northeastern tip of the country, the Navy said in a statement Wednesday. He had written help on the hull of the boat, which was spotted by air, the Navy said. He was taken to Cartagena for medical care and officials will help him get back home, the Navy said. In video released by the Navy and distributed by news services, the Associated Press and Reuters, Francois tells medical staff he is doing okay. Elites from politics, business, academia and the arts on Friday wrapped up the World Economic Forum's annual conclave in the Swiss town of Davos, where worries about the war in Ukraine, a warming planet and a cooling global economy dominated discussions about the world's ills. The 53rd edition of the week-long gathering in the Alps drew notables like Ukraine's First Lady, climate activist Greta Thunberg, and actor Idris Elba, plus hundreds of presidents, prime ministers, CEOs, and other decision makers who hashed out deals and voiced demands on everything from trade to tanks for Ukraine. The meeting perennially draws criticism, was a hub of power mongers and money grabbers seeking to rule the world, and this year was no exception. Longtime attendee and Kremlin critic Bill Browder launched a tirade about sitting out this year because the forum sought to triple the cost of his participation to $250,000. Some deep-pocketed execs shell out upwards of $1 million a year to be members of the WEF club. It's anybody's guess whether an event that churns up pledges, promises and partnerships to help realize the forum's ambition of improving the world will bring any concrete progress. Prince Harry's Spare sold more than 3.2 million copies worldwide after just 1 week of publication and will likely rank among the best-selling memoirs of all time. Penguin Random House announced Thursday that Prince Harry's headline-making memoir sold 1.6 million copies in the US alone. It's a number comparable to first-week sales for blockbusters such as former President Barack Obama's A Promised Land and former First Lady Michelle Obama's Becoming, which has sold more than 17 million copies since coming out in 2018. The British publisher announced last week that Spare sold 400,000 copies in the United Kingdom in all formats, hardback, ebook and audio on its first day. The total sales announced for Spare are for print, audio and digital editions in the major English language markets, the US, UK, Canada and Australia. The book has come out in 15 other languages and editions in 10 additional languages are expected. More bodies were found Friday following an avalanche that buried vehicles outside a highway tunnel in Tibet, raising the death toll to 20, with 8 people still missing. Images from the scene at the exit of the tunnel connecting the city of Ningxi in Tibet's southwest with an outlying county showed about half a dozen backhoes digging through deep snow. Reports said around 1,000 rescuers had joined the effort. Tons of snow and ice collapsed onto the mouth of the tunnel on Tuesday evening, trapping drivers in their vehicles. Many of the people were headed home for China's Lunar New Year holiday that starts Sunday. A fire destroyed about 60 makeshift homes in a densely packed neighborhood surrounded by some of the wealthiest streets of South Korea's ultra-modern capital Friday. Firefighters extinguished the flames in Seoul's Guryeong village within about 5 hours and no injuries or deaths were reported. Shin Yong-ho, an official at the fire department of Seoul's Gangnam district, said rescue workers have searched areas affected by the fire, but all residents were believed to have safely evacuated. More than 800 firefighters, police officers, and public workers fought the flames and handled evacuations after the fire began around 6:30 a.m. Photos showed firefighters fighting the flames under thick, white smoke covering the village as helicopters sprayed water from above. Later, orange-suited rescuers searched through the charred landscape where grey tendrils of smoke were still rising. The capital's skyscrapers gleamed a short distance away. Now it's time for business news. New York stock close price is 15,777.55. The NYSE composite is increased by 207.92 points or 1.34%. Tokyo stock close price is 26,553.53. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 148.30 points or 0.56%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,264.8138. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 24.53 points or 0.76%. Hong Kong stock close price is 22,044.65. The Hang Seng Index is increased by 393.67 points or 1.82%. Bombay stock close price is 60,621.77. The Sensex index is decreased by 236.66 points or 0.39%. Now a look of today's sports stories. Sebastian Corda comes by his athleticism and competitive instincts honestly. From dad, the 1998 Australian Open champion, from mom, also a former professional tennis player, and from two big sisters, both current golf pros, and in some mentorship from 8-time major champ Andre Agassi and a couple of coaches, including former player Radek Stepanek, and maybe it shouldn't be all that surprising that Korda, a 22-year-old American never passed the fourth round at a Grand Slam tournament, would manage to eliminate two-time runner-up Daniil Medvedev at Melbourne. Korda's attacking brand of tennis carried him past number 7 seeded Medvedev 7-6, 6-3, 7-6 in the Australian Open's third round Friday night, the latest in a string of victories by young men from the US against top players this week. Brazilian soccer player Dani Alves was arrested Friday after being accused of sexually assaulting a woman in Spain, and a judge later denied bail for the former Barcelona defender. The alleged assault took place on December 31st at a nightclub in Barcelona, police told the Associated Press. Alves was taken into custody after he answered a police summons. State prosecutors had asked for him to be held without bail, and a judge agreed after charging him with sexual assault following several hours of testimony. A charge of sexual assault in Spain can mean anything from unsolicited and unwanted sexual groping to rape. Police said they could not give any details on the case. Alves denied the allegations last week in a video he sent to Spanish television channel Antena 3. While acknowledging he had been at the club, he said he did not know the women and added, "I have never invaded the personal space of anyone." The 39-year-old Alves is one of soccer's most successful players, winning major titles with several elite clubs, including Barcelona, Juventus, and Paris Saint-Germain over his long career. He currently plays for Mexican club Pumas. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV US and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.